All right, we're back. It is the Pick Six podcast, and this is another episode where Dustin and I get to work together and talk about the hobby and things that are going on. And I don't know, Dustin, I feel like something's up. I could be wrong. We don't want to get people angry at us and calling us up or all that stuff, but I feel like there's some funny business going on when it comes to the 2003 Exquisite patch autos and some of those cards. I mean, some of those cards, those prices make sense. But there's a couple where they don't really make a whole lot of sense. And we're going to dive into that today with some actual data. Just like off the cuff, like how do you feel about that? When you saw that, what was your first inclination? Like what came to your mind?
When I first saw the $18,000 sale, I was thinking to myself, well, there must be more to the story. Like maybe there's, like maybe that card in particular is special for some reason. And then looking into it more, as we both did, and you'll talk about your part, you actually own one of these, a card from that set. Then it was kind of like, oh, wow, that's just dramatically different. And also it'd be one thing too, if these sales were a year apart or 6 months apart, and you could say like, oh, well, they don't come up for sale that much. So maybe it was just like, one sold here, one sold there. But these sales that we're going to look at for one of them are literally like a week apart. So they're really close. And I know that there was, well, you said like, we don't want to upset people, but I feel like that's just kind of part of the fun of this whole thing. Cause it's all just like debate and all the arguments are for fun. Like, it's not like, it's not anything personal typically, but it is kind of fun to banter back and forth because let's face it, like the collectibles market is a weird little spot and there's weird little things that happen and there's patterns. And now we have data to kind of look at. And so it's fun.
I think we go back, it kind of goes back to those concerns we had about shilling a while back, a few weeks ago, and talking about the nefarious activity and actors in the space. And, I wouldn't be blaming auction houses at all. I'm not talking about that. I'm more concerned with the people that are bidding and the transparency behind that for the hobby. It gets kind of tricky. There might have been someone just going, hey, I just really want all these cards and I'm going to bid as much as I need to bid to get there. But it does seem a little odd that a card you could have obtained easily for a fraction, pennies on the dollar for what was spent, than what you spent on that card. You got to be kind of feeling, unless there's something we don't know, but it seemed kind of odd. So maybe we'll just dive into the data, Dustin. What do you think? Just dive right in.
Yeah, let's do it. So the one in particular, I'll start first and then you can share your screen. I'll start with, I guess, the one that made some waves here recently. Let's see here. So beautiful card. Can you see this okay?
Yeah, I can see it.
So 2003 Exquisite collection out of 100. Beautiful patch on card auto. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. There's nothing you can say negative about the card at all. It's just the price tag on the card that is shocking. And it's not even like it's double or triple, quadruple, at $18,600 sold on October 4th is this copy. And then if we go over to this copy, can you see?
Mm-hmm.
So the only difference is that this one, it's also a PSA 8. It doesn't have an auto grade. So it's one heck of a premium to pay from $1,500 up to $18,600 to have a 10 auto grade, when frankly, I think the autos on both cards look fantastic. The patches are equally as nice, but
I'd argue that Dustin, I'd argue that the patch on this card is actually superior to the patch on the other card. I have a David Robbins with a patch that's similar to the other card, where it seems like they got part of the jersey, that elastic part of the jersey. Looks like it's actually a part of the number or the logo, which I would think is more valuable, in my opinion, getting an actual piece of the logo or a number, the stitching and all of that. To me, this card here, in my opinion, the autograph looks very strong, is a superior copy to the one that's sold on later on.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that I was just trying to see is I believe these sold fairly closely together. Let me just see if I can double check that here. So what's kind of your take as to how this could happen?
Well, there's one theory would be, okay, a lot of these cards hit the auction at the same time. So you might get a buyer or buyers that feel like there's an opportunity to get a lot of cards from a very, very, very iconic set. This set, in my opinion, this set's going to go down as one of the bigger sets in the hobby. 10 years from now, you're going to, in my opinion, you're going to want to own cards from this set. And I've already picked up one. I want to get more. I'm always looking for a limited logos, David Robinson, but I think that price has got kind of crazy after this auction. But before that, it was a $5,000 card. Now it's selling for 15 or something like that.
So this one did sell on the 7th. So the $18,000 card sold on the 4th of October. This one sold 3 days later, it looks like, for $1,500. And if I'm looking again at eBay here, man, there's just some weird stuff.
It just makes it even more confusing that, I mean, what this means is that somebody went, because, I saw that and I was looking at this card as well going, man, $1,500, maybe I should snag this one and just have two of them. Because I love John Stockton, hometown guy. But I think that's just somebody going, hey, I'm going to snag this. It's the same card just sold for $18,000. I can get one for $1,500. And I don't know.
Yeah. And then on the 6th, a BGS 8.5, same card out of 100, $2,950. So it did sell a little bit higher than the $1,500 price tag, but still a bargain.
But what's that card look like though? With these kind of cards, the autograph and the patch, they make a huge difference. Sometimes it's a serial number for some people.
I kind of like, hold on, let me see if I can do this here. I kind of like the BGS. Hold on.
Yeah.
I like the patch. Hold on one second.
Patches on these cards they drive the value. I mean, grade is nice, but the patch is everything. You'll see a BGS 6 or a PSA 5 outsell a PSA 8 with a superior patch. Not necessarily maybe on these cards, but like say the limited logos or some cards that have a bigger patch window and you can get more of a patch in there. You'll see cards that sell for more with the patch being a better patch. So not surprised. Yeah, that's a way better patch.
Check out this patch.
That's a 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 color patch.
That's a beautiful patch.
That's probably the best copy I've seen yet. The autograph's a little light.
It did get a 10 BGS auto grade, but BGS is going to be easier than PSA.
They get 10s like candy on autos. So it's still the patch though. I'd almost, what I'd probably do can't do it anymore, but if I go back in time, I buy this one for the patch and I buy one of the other PSA 8s for the auto. And you got both, and you have a really strong auto, one with a strong auto, and you have one with a strong patch. If you really believe in this set and you feel strongly about this set, it's probably what I'd do. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at these types of cards. And, you're going to see variance in price because of the patch and the auto and stuff like that. So people value that differently. And then, but the increase in price for just that one card, it seems way out. It seems like that middle finger graph thing going on in one sale. I don't know who paid that amount for that card, but I mean, you got to be feeling kind of silly knowing you could have picked one up for $1,500 that might have had even a better patch. And this might have been this may not have been at market because maybe this one already all of a sudden came out after of those numbers.
And the thing too is, it's interesting when you look at price appreciation, people like discovering the set or whatever. I've heard there's been a lot of talk about star basketball cards from '84 and the 101 specifically, of course. But the thing that's weird about this is these sales all happen within 4 or 5 days of one another. And it's not like you had literally a massive sale on the 4th. And then all of these sold after that one for $1,500, $2,900. It's that's the part that's it's not after it a month later, days within days.
I think
on eBay too, it's not as if they were on I don't know, like Memory Lane or somewhere where maybe you wouldn't be looking for this card,
right?
Like a small auction house. Not that Memory Lane's a small auction house, but just a place where maybe you wouldn't be, Mercari or whatever the hell. I mean, this is on eBay. It's on eBay.
Yeah, I think two things come to mind when you talk about the price kind of, obviously someone snapped up that $1,500 copy and then they, this copy probably all of a sudden came to market because people were like, oh gosh, I can probably make some money on this card. This card's patch is less superior to the last two we looked at.
Yeah.
I would say it shows that since people aren't paying too much, it shows that people are smart. The hobby's smart. They get it. They don't look at this as the real true price for that card. I mean, how could you? I think that card's worth between $1,500 and $2,900. And again, it's all going to depend on the patch and the auto, maybe even serial number. I know some people think serial number is the most important thing. I do not. I feel like paying a premium for that's kind of silly. I mean, number matching is, I guess, a 12 out of 100 for John Stockton would be kind of cool to have, but not that much of a premium. 7 out of 100 doesn't make any sense, or 67 out of 100 doesn't make any sense. But the patch is going to rule the day with these kind of cards, and that's going to be your price differentiator most of the time. But yeah, the hobby was smart. I feel like the fact that they haven't gone crazy, like I haven't posted my David Robinson because my patch is just as nice as that. I have it right here. It's like, it's the same card, and the patch is kind of like that. It's the shoulder strap or whatever you want to call it on the jersey. Nothing exciting. The card's really cool. Don't get me wrong.
Show it again, Dennis. I'll give you kind of I think I can make yours the full. Hold on. How do I do this?
I mean, you can kind of see. Get rid of me. There you go.
All right. I thought I could do this. Yeah,
the autograph is awesome. I'm very happy with the auto. It's the cleanest auto I have for David Robinson, but the patch is like, meh, it's okay. I would love to have a patch, and I'll probably look for one with a better patch, right? I just would love to have a patch like that 5-color one that Stockton had in the BGS 8.5. To me, I'm looking for that when I'm buying those cards, and I might pay a little bit more to get that better patch. So I think people are smart. They're not going to go buy. They're not going to probably use these sales as comps because it's, they don't make a ton of sense. And it just kind of shows the hobby is getting wise to that. But again, I'm not going to take away from the 2003 Exquisite set. I really do. I think 03 and 04 were really, really cool years for that set. 03 is the one, right?
And actually, that $1,500 price surprised me. Even like that $1,500 to $3,000 for that set, it does feel underpriced. Like that does feel like, okay, that actually feels like it's got legs to, especially for a Hall of Famer like Stockton or David Robinson or these guys. I know there's always kind of the multiplier with like LeBron versus all the other guys, players, the Kobe versus, or whatever, all the kind of the all-stars or whatever against, Jordan or whatever. But $1,500 for a really nice patch auto out of that set does feel low. 18,000 feels high.
Feels high. Feels low. And then you also have to consider and factor in playing days versus non-playing days. For some of these cards, like you're going to have a Magic Johnson and a Larry Bird. These are non-playing days cards for them. I think 03 is the last year for Robinson, so that's still a playing days card. I think Stockton as well. So when you get that monumental set with playing day cards for some of these legends, that's kind of a cool little thing, right? I mean, I used to have the numbers pieces in 03 and I sold that. A buddy of mine actually has it, which, I'll probably get it back from him someday, hopefully, if he's kind enough to sell it back to me. But it's just, they're really cool sets, and the limited logos are obviously the ones you want. 03 and 04, in my opinion, but 03 is the one I'd love to target. I feel like now it's going to be kind of crazily priced. I'd be interested to see how some of the cards that sold their contemporaries would sell now. The same card would sell now, maybe a month or two from now. Would it cool down and people kind of, get, more grounded with the pricing, and then, not see that multiplier involved and maybe settle on a true price? It just seems like anything that goes like quickly up, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like it's going to be sustained. But I don't want to take away from the importance of the set and how cool it is to me. I'm just kind of getting really excited about when you start learning more about cards and you start studying like how the intricacies of creating a really cool card in a set, you start to appreciate some of these very cool groundbreaking sets. I talk about the Fleer Brilliance 24 karat gold cards. The Central Credentials are pretty cool. Honestly, like there's 98 Central Credentials. There's 97, 98, and then 98, 99. I think it's the way they have it. It looks confusing because they're both 98, but the second year essential credentials, when they have the nows and the futures, whatever year that is, someone will correct me in the comments. But I have the David Robinson now from the first year essential credentials now, but I actually like the now from the year after because it's gray, it's silver. The now is silver, and it looks just awesome. It's like a color match for David Robinson. It's kind of neat, right? There's just stuff like that you can kind of dive into the details. And some of those cards are just such cool cards. The base cards look amazing, right? The base cards are cool. Like just the acetate and all that. I mean, they're so cool. So these Exquisite in 2003, and as it kind of grew, I mean, they're beautiful cards, and the design was amazing.
I wonder too if kind of in the same fashion that a lot of folks moved over to 90s inserts and 90s sets and metal and all that stuff with parallels, low numbered parallels and that sort of thing. And it's not to say that like no one knows about Exquisite, because of course they do. But like I have a card, I'll just use this kind of as an example, but like first year football Exquisite was 2005. So, but like this is a quad Saints auto. As patches, and this is kind of like, I think it's 2007, maybe 2008, but it's kind of right before the Super Bowl year, so it's but it's got like, and this was like, I think I got it for $150, going back the year. But this has got Breeze, these are all on card, they're game used, and granted, you've got 3 players on here that nobody cares about, but again, if you have people that are collecting random PMGs, because they're trying to complete a set, or they just want to own a PMG, and maybe they're a Broncos fan and they want to, they'll just like, oh, I can afford this one. Does a similar thing happen where you just see kind of more money moving into important sets like that, like this one, for example, 2003 for Exquisite, and maybe it's not a star, maybe it's not a Hall of Famer, but it's just like, man, these are amazing cards, and I feel like the sets will hold up over time.
I think over time the sets will. I don't think they should appreciate in value like this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
this ruins it for everybody, man. Nobody can afford them anymore, and people are stretching to get them when they shouldn't have to. I think it should be a natural thing. Like, I bought the David Robinson $1,200. Should that, maybe a year from now, should that be a $1,600 card? To me, that's natural. That's normal. It shouldn't go from $1,500, $1,200 to $10,000. That doesn't make any sense. And here's what happens, and this happens every time. And and this isn't the first time anyone said this. The minute it jumps up like that, everybody and their mother. So whether this person's like, I have 15 people I know that want this card, I'll overpay for it, so everybody will bring them out for sale. Because that's what happens. These cards sell for a large amount, and then everybody who has them go, wait, I have one of these. I can get a big payday. I don't love it that much. I'm going to sell it. That's happened. I mean, case in point, if I'll try to pick a card I actually really like and I would not want to sell. So let's pretend that Bond's 24 karat gold. There's nothing for sale right now. Say one hits the market in an auction and it sells for like $150,000. Let's just pretend for a second it sells for that. I mean, I paid very little for that. I'm very tempted. I'm going to probably sell that card. Like, there's no way I don't think about posting it for sale with a best offer or putting it into auction. Naturally, you're going to do that. So I think a lot of people that have these cards and other cards will do that when these big sales occur, and then it just waters down the market and it drags the price back down. What I'm saying right now, everybody already knows. But so if you think about that, when that happens, it goes against this theory that people are going to start set collecting and pushing this, because otherwise stuff just keeps flooding the market. And if you're smart, you just wait and let the prices keep trickling down, and don't worry about missing out, because you'll eventually get an opportunity. I've learned too with serial numbering, I think people need to be very patient, because if it's out of 100, you're going to have a chance to get that card at some point.
Yeah, out of 100. Yeah, for sure.
Out of 100 is not as rare as we always thought it was. Out of 50, I would even be very patient. And there's a lot of out of 25 cards that people aren't as excited about. So I just think you got to really be careful. Don't buy into stuff too much. Don't get too overly excited if you see a price go up, thinking, oh, I better grab it before it goes out of reach. I think some of these cards that, like that Bonds Rubies, I mean, I'm going to sell that card now because there's just too much sale going. There's too much weird stuff going on with that thing, and I like it, but I don't know. I want to do something different, so I'm going to sell that card. And yeah, I'm probably contributing to more of that because that's going to sell how many times in the last 2 months. But, I'd rather have this other card and not that one. And so I'm going to do that. But see, now if that card, for instance, all of a sudden sells for like 20, then you're going to have like 5 or 6 more people coming out to sell that card. So just if that keeps happening, I don't know, man. I think that's good though too, because that holds the values in check. It's sort of like the governor on the engine that is the hobby. So it's a natural governor to the hobby. So whenever stuff gets out of whack, that happens. Everybody's all money, and they jump out there and they post their cards. They all hit the market, and the next thing you know, everything waters it down, and the prices come back down to where they should be, and everything kind of keeps moving on. It's like this big swell, and then everything calms back down. So,
yeah, it's interesting. The whole, the flip game on the high end, does it make, once you factor in fees and everything else, if you get a bump or movement on a card, you bought it for, let's say 5,000, it moves up to 10,000 and you sell it for 10,000, or does it make sense for a lot of these to just kind of hang on, and over time, then you do really well? That's kind of always and of course it's going to vary on what card we're talking about, and, all that stuff, and how many are available.
Well, talk about your star. Let's use your star for an example. I mean, you know how you got into that and what you got into it for, and why. What would motivate you to sell that card? Or because I know you're long in it, so what would motivate you to finally move that?
I guess if there was an opportunity to get into maybe a higher grade, but it would have to be, it'd have to just be kind of like a great deal came along to where I could get into a higher grade. I don't really see myself being in a position to do it though, So, but I did mention, I made a video going back, maybe like a week ago, kind of the threats to star. And one of them or I should say the threats to my copy. Let's say that, because I have a mid-grade, I have a 5.5 PSA. And what you're seeing is there's a pretty substantial premium PSA versus BGS right now. That's the way that it's looking. And that, honestly, that's not just star cards. That's all cards.
Let's caveat this though. I think for people that are listening that haven't heard your storyline on that, or your origin story on that card, Dustin got into that 5.5 way before all this stuff started happening. So he was in it before the swell. So he didn't buy a 5.5 at the top. So
the recent price movement, we're not. It's not anything near what we're talking about here with the Exquisite. Like the multiples that we're talking about here are very different. Because the star was always a pricey card. It's just moved up, over the last 90 days. Some of the copies have corrected, especially the BGS copies. And what's happening, and where my card is vulnerable, is you have BGS 7s, let's say, that probably cross over to a 5 or a 5.5, maybe a 6, for PSA. And so there's a lot of people that are trying to, and a lot of people know that, that are in the market. So they're kind of like, I think I want to sell this as a 7 or a 7.5. But then also people are smartening up to that fact. And they're like, okay, well, it's a BGS 7.5. I'll pay a PSA 6 price.
For it, yeah.
And so that's where you're seeing price movement downward especially on BGS copies, because people are figuring it out. And so the pop for my copy, the 5, the 5.5, and the 6, it's going to rise because there's 1,200 or 1,000 or however many BGS copies. So once they kind of move over to PSA eventually, I assume that a lot of them will. Then there's going to be more there. Will there be demand for the card? That's the part we don't, nobody knows. I'm confident in the long-term demand for the card. That's why I'm fine holding on to it. And I also just love the card too. It's kind of like one of those things where, what was the story about Jerry Buss selling the Lakers? Like, I could sell the Lakers for $1 billion, but then I would want to buy the Lakers again. What would you buy? What would you spend the money on? I would buy the Lakers. It's kind of like that with this card. It's like, I feel like I have an important hobby card, and it's like, oh, I take the money and I put it into what? Like, I guess another semi-important hobby card. I'd rather just, especially in the Jordan market too. In the Jordan market, I could take the money and I could get like a pretty nice, maybe I could get like a nice 90s insert, or maybe I can get, like a higher grade 86 Fleer, which that would be cool. I love the 86 Fleer. Everyone always knocks me on, you like Star or Fleer. The Fleer is the most iconic Michael Jordan card ever. I love the 86 Fleer. But if I'm like for the money and everything, I decided to go this direction, with the star and try to get the Fleer later on.
Well, it's kind of a similar thought for me with Jordan. It's tough because Jordan's market's so difficult to get into, and there's so many good cards that you just get inundated. You're overwhelmed by it. So what are you gonna like? I struggle to sell my PSA 10 87 Fleer Jordan because I'm like, it's the only Jordan card I still have, and I'm like, I kind of feel like down the road that's going to be a card I'm going to wish I still had.
Yeah, I love that card.
And I don't know if, because I love it for lots of reasons. Nostalgically, that's like the card I remember. I don't remember 86 Fleer. As a kid, 87 was the one I had a raw copy of that as a kid. And I was like, I thought I was in heaven. Like I thought I was going to, someday be, rich because I had that card. And who knows what grade it was in, probably awful grade. But that card mattered to me and resonated to me. The 86 doesn't. Star definitely doesn't because I don't even remember that. But the 87 was like that first year for me. And of course, I'm collecting the PSA 9 set. I have the full PSA 9 sticker set. I'd love to get the PSA 10 in the sticker. That's kind of like one of those things where, like, if I'm going to get another Jordan card, it'd be the 87. Because 87 is like, that's just one of my favorite sets ever. So, like, I'm slowly piecing that together and having a blast doing it. $20 here, $30 here, right? I subbed in a bunch of raw that I bought from a card show. I know we're deviating a little bit here, but I subbed in a bunch of raw, and I got back the sub. And it's funny. This is totally deviating from the topic, but I subbed all that into PSA, and I actually want to kind of dovetail this into another question. I subbed it all into PSA, and I got them all back. It was like 20 cards. I picked a lot of them I didn't have yet, figuring, okay, who knows? I chose the cheapest, longest route for them, and they're all common, but I picked the ones I hadn't gotten yet. I got a bunch of 8s, a couple 6s, and I only got one 9 that actually could like add to the set. But I got 2 PSA 10s, a Ricky Pierce and I forget this white guard from the Celtics, Jerry Shigling or something silly like that. Something like that. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I got PSA 10s and the 87 Fleer. I mean, add them to my set, make my set look better in the registry. And then I go to find out that, they have a lot of PSA 10s in those cards. For some reason, that card was cut properly, or just it's a very consistent, nice copy of a card for that set. And so it was a little less attractive. I still kept them because I kind of wanted to have extras. But this deviates to my other question. So kind of branching off this, we talk about BGS a little bit. Do you know anybody who still subs to BGS, Beckett? Do you know anybody who does?
I don't. And I also think, and not just for star cards, but given that PSA's got the guarantee, given that Beckett is just struggling so badly, I don't think people I think people are less apt. I'll use Star as a specific example to spend big on a BGS slab, unless they're like, I'm gonna cross it, to PSA with the thought of let me get the BGS hopefully at a discount, and then I'll sub. I mean, or there are people that already have owned them in the BGS slab for a long period of time. They're way up on it. Maybe they bought it 10 years ago and they're like, hey, I paid $3,000 and now it's worth 15, or 20 or whatever it is. And so I'm just going to keep it in. I don't want to mess with it because I'm also I've never cracked a slab before, so I'm probably one of those people. If I had got in at a good price on a BGS copy, I probably wouldn't mess with it. But
no, I'm not talking about like taking cards that are already in the slabs, the rare cards.
Yeah. I don't know people that are subbing
brand new cards you're getting. I need to sub in. I'm going to pick PSA or I'm going to go or Beckett or SGC. I don't know who does not pick PSA.
It's not BGS anymore, and there just hasn't been enough life in that company. There hasn't been enough life, and again, look, we're spending hard-earned money, and it's kind of like, if you have the choice between the grading companies, right now it's pretty obvious, SGC also a strong contender there, just as far as accuracy and, strong company. Plus they're owned by collectors now as well. So they're under the same umbrella. But yeah, it just seems like a pretty easy decision these days.
So last question. Do you think Fanatics buys Beckett? Completes the trifecta?
Yeah, I don't really know. I've heard a lot of the stories about the ownership of Beckett, and it's like impossible. It's like, owned by, 500 different people, or there's all sorts of like heads to figure, like guys in jail, or, I have no idea I've heard all these different stories. I kind of hope that Fanatics does buy Beckett just to revive that brand, because I feel like if they don't, then it just will go by the wayside, or it'll just kind of limp along, and that's kind of too bad. But it also could just be, it's a survival of the fittest type world that we're in. And maybe it is time for, Beckett to go by the wayside and for the other companies to, to excel. You also just need, you need strong companies, whoever they're going to be. Maybe there's a fourth company that comes out of nowhere, that competes with everybody. Who knows? But
well, I guess the question for the group, the question for the comment section, everybody's listening. Do you think the hobby's stronger with a stronger Beckett brand, a strong Beckett grading brand, a promise, maybe a set registry for Beckett? Maybe you try to jump on some of that technology. Is the hobby better for it? And would you like to see it? And do you think Fanatics is the company to do it, or do you think Fanatics needs to not be involved in grading?
I think that when you look at the four companies too, the one that stands out is, you like Beckett for their subgrades. You really like Beckett is the subgrade grader, and they have a good looking case. They have a good looking, flip. I mean, as far as aesthetically, it's a great looking case and everything. And the subgrades, that's kind of a differentiator for them. And that's something that when you go to card shows, it'd be kind of too bad if there's just no Beckett slabs anymore. It's not to say that, you want it to, I mean, it doesn't have to be just PSA, but it'd be nice to see some variety there, and Beckett it'd be really too bad, I think.
I agree. Well, this has been a good show. Obviously we asked you that one question, but also comment on the 2003 Exquisite sales. What do you think's going on there? Do you think there's anything nefarious going on, or do you think it's just someone getting really excited and wanting to buy a bunch of the same cards from a set? A bunch of different players, and they just had a bunch of money to spend. They're like, let's go. Who knows? Either way, do you feel like this is sustainable? Do you think that set's going to keep rising in value? We'd love to hear your thoughts below. Subscribe. Click on all the affiliate links and all the different videos that Dustin puts out. He's got like 25 of them this week. So just go grab them all. Listen to them all.
I dressed up as Alf this week. I
was going to say, man, I mean, I haven't seen anyone dress up as Alf. And if it was going to be somebody, it'd be you.
So at the National, this is why we all go to the National. No, I'm kidding. I met a viewer, fantastic guy that happens to be an executive at HalloweenCostumes.com and fun.com. And so he sent out, he was like, hey man, I really love watching the shows. And he offered to send me out the Alf costume. Cause of course I've got Alf next to me on the couch. And then he sent me a few the ugly Christmas sweater type thing. So you never know who you're going to run into at a card show.
I love it, man. I grew up on that stuff like you did. We both are like the same age. We grew up on all the same stuff, enjoy a lot of the same stuff. So, and when you bring those things out, it's kind of fun. I think the next one's Bert and Ernie. We got to get him wrapped. We got to get those guys wrapped in somehow, and Kermit the Frog and Mask and all those really cool shows that we used to watch back in the day. Mr. T. Anyway, man, it's been fun. Pick Six podcast, another one in the books. You guys, you know what to do. Thanks for spending time with us. Listen to us talk about sports cards. Try not to go buy a bunch of Exquisite 2003 with overinflated prices. I think maybe just chill out a little bit, wait, and it'll probably die back down, and you can have your fun. So anyway, have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you all later.
Thanks, guys.